بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره وصلى الله وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم أجمعين. We want to welcome everyone to, I think it's session 4, I believe, talking about Black American or African American Muslim history, specifically to the area of Baltimore. We kind of talk broad, but we're going to narrow it down, inshallah, to the Baltimore region. And with us, we have Imam Saafir Rabb Sr, who is kind of just telling us his story, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum, Imam.
Wa alaikum assalam.
No, tayyib. So just going over my notes, it seems like the last thing we kind of spoke about, I mean, we went through the theology of, the Nation of Islam, the so-called Nation of Islam under the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and how that theology, how the transition went from that to, that of W.D. Muhammad, how it was a gradual process that got us to where we are. We talked a little bit about Minister Louis Farrakhan, because I did ask a question last week as to why, what happened there. How come there was a split? And you explained that very well, mashallah. On that note, I guess I want to ask this question, and it's just your thoughts. What do you think? I mean, nowadays, with things being the way they are, Islam being as widespread as it is, knowledge being as widespread as it is, why do you think that the brothers from the so-called nation won't take that step over in today's day? We understood in the past, we gotta, some people weren't comfortable with it. Do you still think you have that issue where people just aren't comfortable with what we call Sunni Islam?
When you say the brothers in the nation, do you mean the followers of Farrakhan?
Yes, that's what I mean.
Okay. Before I continue to talk, I would just like to say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. I would say, to answer your question, the followers of Farrakhan are his followers. Mm-hmm. And I think I'm gonna surmise that they were, or they are, to Louis Farrakhan as we were to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Mm-hmm. And with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, he was everything. When we prayed to Allah and said our life and our death is all for Allah, we also ascribed it to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad because he was the messenger of Allah. I think they see him, now they call him the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and they actually see him ascending to the same position that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad held. So if that's the post he holds in I'm going to say stature of rank, then that's probably the post he holds in the stature of their understanding. Mm-hmm. And so they're not going to allow any other knowledge except for what is edited by the Farrakhan view. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, I will admit Minister Farrakhan is trying to find a way to introduce, excuse me, pardon me, the power wasn't on. Okay. for the computer. Farrakhan is trying to find a way to bring in Prophet Muhammad, mm-hmm. but he's not. He doesn't know it himself. So he has a pattern in the example of Imam W.D. Muhammad, but Imam Muhammad knew the life and the seerah of Prophet Muhammad as Quran. Farrakhan does not. So he don't know how to take them there. And so they can only move.
Oh, like we dropped the Imam. All right. Yeah, so you left off explaining that the Minister Louis Farrakhan doesn't understand the way of the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, so he's having an issue trying to maneuver the people in that direction.
Correct. I think that Minister Farrakhan knows that Prophet Muhammad is the way. Imam Muhammad, I think, represented that to him very well, and it was always his intention to just help the followers of the Honorable Muhammad make the transition to Imam Muhammad, to Prophet Muhammad, I was going to say. But he just don't know enough about Prophet Muhammad to help.
It's funny. It's funny because I was watching on YouTube some videos of him overseas, and he's praying. Like you said, they've accepted him. The international community, to a large degree, has accepted him as, like a Muslim spokesperson for America. And he's praying in the Turkey and everything, and the delegates are meeting him and everything else. So I think you're right. He seems to know. I mean, with that much exposure, you have to know. But I guess the question is, how do you get your followers to follow that? And I guess that's where the question came from. Second part of that question is, I mean, locally, it seems as if we have, and I'm talking about the Baltimore area, a good rapport, right? Especially the older generations. People seem to have a good rapport with people who are followers of Minister Farrakhan.
Yes. I'm going to say that because their present is our past.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we don't look at the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's teachings as something foreign or a bid'ah or even shirk, because they associated Master Rabb Muhammad with Allah. But that's because at one time we expressed that. We actually believed it, and that's our evolution. Pardon me, there's a guy coming to pick up.
That's all right. Yeah.
So I'm going to say that nobody denies their parenting. They don't deny the household that they come out of. Even though when they evolve and get older, more mature, and accept different concepts and ideologies, they still reverence the womb that bore them.
Yes, indeed. Inshallah. Yeah.
And I'm going to say, as far as the followers of Prophet Muhammad, through the students of Imam Muhammad, that's the case because Imam Muhammad always held the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in esteem.
Mashallah. Yeah, I even noticed, like, I talking to brothers, like when there's a janazah, a funeral, it doesn't matter, right? I think one of our brothers, passed a few months ago, elderly brother, and you go to the janazah and you see brothers from the nation, right? There you see,
Yes. Yes.
So that goes to show that there's still this connection. There's still, because people came up together.
Well, not only that, I'm going to say there's an obligation on the followers of Prophet Muhammad who consider themselves students of Imam Muhammad to help them. You have to understand their present is our past. So it's like we know. Now, I don't identify with them as much in I'm going to say social interaction, but I do know that we will have they come to the joint Eids. You know what I mean? When we have Eid, we call it a joint Eid for the Masajid, then they are one who considered to come.
MashaAllah. All right. So this seems to be some, maybe because of past relationships or whatever, or obligations, right? There seems to be some rapport and some coming together. Allah knows best.
And they do fast during Ramadan. That's the one thing that he changed from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
Okay.
The Honorable Elijah Muhammad used to have us fast only in December.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that. Yes. So now
So when Imam Muhammad became our leader, he said, no, we should be in accord with the lunar calendar and the Islamic calendar. And when lunar month of Ramadan occurs, that's when we should fast. So we stopped fasting in December. Started fasting in the lunar month of Ramadan.
Yeah.
That is a change. So if Farrakhan's followers, they fast during the lunar month of Ramadan, that's an admitted change from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's teachings.
Right.
Remember, his purpose was not to re-resurrect the Nation of Islam. It was to help those who still was in that mindset to come to Prophet Muhammad.
Exactly. So you'll see those changes like the fasting during Ramadan. Even I think the way that the prayer, I was watching something on YouTube where you see that a lot of them pray, according to Sunnah, the way the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Correct. That's another change. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad had us standing up. We never made sajda. Never made ruku. The prayer of Abraham that starts shortly after I turn myself to thee, Allah, trying to be upright. Well, we used to say standing upright.
Okay.
And we stood. And we didn't take any other position.
Right. Mashallah. So we do see those small changes. Alhamdulillah, that's good to see. That being said, there's another question I had, and this is just me reflecting over the past few conversations. Sometimes things come up that I didn't get a chance to ask then that I want to ask now. That being said, as we talk about some of the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and you mentioned that he was more of a person who introduced social change, like, pull yourself up by the bootstraps type of thing,
Yes.
As we progressed in Islam, up until today, and we've been introduced to Sunni and all these other different things, do you feel personally that when you look at the Muslim community that there is a need to go back to some of those teachings of, pull yourself up by the bootstraps, the moral code and everything else? Do you feel that need?
Yes. But I'm going to say, the way you phrased the question creates a pause in my thinking, in the sense of going back. To me, I think we never left.
Yes.
That's what I want to say. Gotcha. And I think that what happened when Imam Muhammad became our leader, what was in a lot of the followers' heart is what they I'm going to say degenerate to.
Yeah.
And that is if you notice when I say the moral code, they relax, no smoking, they was smoke. They relax, one woman, one wife, and they would take on 2 and 3 because this is what the people of the East would have, more than one wife. And I consider that a part of the moral code, as well as just a lot of things. We used to pursue education. I mean, in the sense of establishing schools.
Yes.
Some of the schools have dwindled down.
Yeah.
So it's like the focus of the community is not as much the children and as much as it is the personal self.
Yeah.
And so, but now I'm going to say this is a part of the wisdom of Imam W.D. Muhammad, and I'm going to highlight a cornerstone of his thinking was to decentralize the authority of the community, because everybody looked to one leader, which was the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He was now the leader. He didn't want everybody looking to him.
Right.
For every decision in their lives. He wanted, especially when it came to worship of Allah. He wanted that to be natural and self-inducing. So when that happens, a lot of what was enforced as the prescription was relaxed, and it had to take on its own life, which means that it had to grow at its own pace.
Yeah.
So I don't, in the sense that you asked the question, did we get away from it? I'm going to say more we relaxed it, but it's still here, and the growth has yet to mature. Imam Muhammad knew this. He planted that seed. I want to stay on your question, but I just want to highlight a few things that he instituted, that he made sure was the disbanding of the FOI and the MGT was a decentralization of the authority, but he wanted to include it into the individual of the human potential.
Right.
When he actually disbanded the businesses of the Nation of Islam. In other words, all the Nation of Islam's businesses was owned by the temple.
Okay.
We had supermarket. We had restaurants. We had transportation services. But it was all sponsored by the masjid.
Okay.
The mindset was, and I'm speaking about Baltimore now. Mindset was to create money to support the school.
Okay.
Because school does not generate any income on its own.
Right. Right.
And if most of the attendees of the school were the followers in the temple, so we had other people who sent their children who weren't Muslims, but they would send their children to our school. But most of them were Muslims. Right. And if they fell behind in their tuition, how are you going to put them out?
Right.
So we had to find a way to support the lack of tuition that was being paid. And so that was the centralized way of the businesses being owned by the masjid, really was to support the educational system.
Okay.
But when Imam Muhammad became leader, he said, no, we want to find a way to give these businesses to the people who operate the business and let them donate in zakat and support the masjid and the school. So what we did in Baltimore was kind of disseminated, and the brothers who were the managers of the restaurants created a package for them to buy it.
Okay.
And so that's how the businesses was relaxed. He said, we're not in the business of making money. We're in the business of making souls for Allah.
I see.
And he wanted the imams, if you wanted to be a businessman, then go ahead on and resign from the imam post and run your business. But he wanted people to be imams who their chief concern was the development of the human potential of the followers or the believers.
I see. That's okay. That's a good point. Very good point, because I've looked over this in the past, I don't know, a few decades, and I've kind of come to, I don't know, kind of like an opposite conclusion. When I look at masajids, I always thought, wouldn't it be nice to have a business owned by the masjid that would, take care of the funds and everything instead of doing fundraisers or whatever the case may be. But you just brought it's a different way of looking at it. Having those.
Oh, we lived it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say some cities weren't all halal businesses.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm not going to say that was the case in Baltimore.
Right.
But because we have a centralized authority, whatever is the mindset of whoever's at the helm, it just filters down.
I got you.
So, and Imam Muhammad had a long time to study the Nation of Islam and what was its weak points and what was its strengths.
I see.
So when he came in, he knew what he was going to change and what he was going to do. And that was one of the things that he highlighted. I never forget, he would tell the ministers or the imams, if you want to be a businessman, then go ahead and be a businessman.
Right.
But those who are in the post of imamship, I want you to be following me and my direction as I point you to Prophet Muhammad and my view as I look upon the image of divine.
Okay, now that's good. That's good information there. Good information and a good piece of wisdom that, like you said, you lived it. I'm theorizing about it, but seeing is not like hearing, right?
Oh, yes, sir. And I guess I'm going to say that more is to come. You're going to see more believers developing businesses and supporting the masjid.
Yes, mashallah.
So it is coming.
Inshallah, we look forward to it. Okay, let me just check off my questions here. So I got that one out of the way. Here's another one. Along that line, I know you said that, when I asked the question about do we need to revisit certain aspects, you said for yourself, we never left them.
Yes.
What do you think about, the younger generation, my generation and younger, someone in their 40s and younger? I say that, maybe because of, my age, I do tend to I keep in touch with a lot of the youth and what's going on in their lives. And I find that there are certain things that, it seems like the youth just completely somewhere else compared to what I would say my parents or grandparents' generation in Islam were upon, right? Like the modesty for the brothers and the sisters and carrying yourself a particular way. Do you think there's something we need to kind of reinstitute amongst the youth, not necessarily centralized, but where do you think we went wrong on that? And
I would say our example. I'm going to say, I look at like I'm like your parent. I'm a parent generation to you. So if I fail to give it to you, you're not going to give it to your children because you don't have it.
Right.
So to whatever degree my generation failed, it left shortcomings in your generation. And then those shortcomings passed on to your children. And I say that because right now I have grandchildren who graduated from college, and they're expressing that desire to want to know more. Whereas I remember when my children was coming up, the masjid was the center of their life.
Right.
But that's not the case with your children.
Right.
Now, I can't ask you why is the masjid the center of the life of your children.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm going to also answer too. I'm not going to say the masjid is not the center of your life, but when I was coming along, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was the masjid, and everything was centralized. So we had to always report to the masjid. We was at the masjid 7 days a week.
Yeah.
So when Imam Muhammad decentralized it, now it got I'm going to say more loose. One of the things I'm going to say, he didn't stress too much making all of your prayers at the masjid like they do in the other countries. You got to realize we was in America. We worked jobs. You couldn't get off, and then they didn't have places in the workplace for you to make salat. That became an issue.
Okay.
A lot of the believers, once we were making the transition to the Sunnah of Prophet Muhammad, finding some place to pray on the job, being able to take time out for prayer, that was a big issue. Especially if you've been there 10, 15, 20 years, and now all of a sudden, you're saying, where I'm a prayer? You know what I mean?
Right.
Different things like that. So, and I'm going to say that's one of the reasons why my generation could not give it to your generation the same way we received it, is because we were also in transition at the time. So the main thing, and I'm going to say that I think I have done that with my children, and that is, and I expect for them to do it with theirs. But right now I'm telling them, you can't complain to me about what your children don't have that you had, because it's up to you to provide it for them.
Yes, that's right.
And it's an obligation. It's like a self-indictment, the question you're asking.
That's a good one. I like that. Yeah. SubhanAllah. Let me write that down.
But I'm gonna say my granddaughter was just visiting me 2 days ago, and I was telling her about you doing these interviews on Zoom every other week, and she said her generation needs something like that.
Okay. Yeah.
So I indicted her too.
Yeah, that's right.
You know what I mean? I said it don't cost you much to be able to talk to some pioneers.
Yeah.
Call them on Zoom and record it, and then post it on YouTube.
Right. Yeah.
But
okay, I like that. Yeah, you're right. It is a self-indictment. I've run across youth who kind of use that, and you know, I understood their frustration at times, but you just put it in a different light. You know, I don't do this. You know, what do the elderly people do for us? We're still doing this and doing that. And like, well, you know, what can you do for yourself, right? Why aren't you?
correct.
Yeah. SubhanAllah.
I'm going to say something else too about that, and that is the time we're living in. I think is different in the sense of the music.
Yes.
Takes their mind in a different direction. What's fashionable is somewhat indicting as well. You know, even I look at the way they dance today, whereas the way they used to dance during my time. You know, there's no form, there's no standards of achievement for what is good, fair, or poor.
Right.
Everything is individual, and then this computer technology is another. I'm going to say time. What's the proper word? It grabs all the time and keeps their attention. Whereas, and I notice it because I'm in construction, and you don't find people interested in wanting to learn how to be an electrician, or a carpenter, or a plumber, or a tradesman. Yeah. They want to be a computer technologist,
or
you know, they want to be technical, and they don't want to use their hands, which I'm not opposed to not pursuing your life and trying to use your hands, but you have to use your mind also with what you do with your hands.
That's right.
And they don't study the principles. I'm going to say the principles of engineering is something that should be stressed, because I use Elon Musk as an example. He's just a regular engineering student, who took his ability to learn principles and then apply them.
That's right.
And he's taking it to the next level. I mean, no, past the next level. He's in the stratosphere.
Right. MashaAllah. That is true. I was listening to him talk, and he was talking about fundamental principles, basically. You know, so instead of doing what NASA did, something along the lines he said was, instead of doing what NASA did, I just learned the fundamentals of what NASA did. And then that's how you get creativity. That's how I came up with the ideas that I.
Correct.
Yeah, MashaAllah.
I'll tell you, when I look at him, what I see him doing is use a little bit of that and a little bit of what you would call they accredit it to Henry Ford, which was the assembly line. You know what I mean? Yeah. In other words, once you have gotten all the kinks out, then you mass produce it.
Right.
And that's what he applies in his. He also has more than just engineering. He also has some business applications in how he thinks, which I don't think people are aware of. But he's a serious businessman.
Yes.
In as much as he is the chief scientist and the engineer of what he's developing,
Right.
he also is the chief financial strategist.
Mashallah. Mashallah.
And that's a side of him that people, I don't think that these days think he's dumb looking.
Yeah, no. Very, very smart intellectual. Mashallah. So yeah, I want to kind of get back on that point there about the youth. I'm kind of stuck on that because that's a good point, but I am trying to think, and maybe it's just me. Is there anything that, other than them doing it for themselves, that we can do? Your generation, my generation, can do to kind of get these youth back on track. Is it just talking? Is it teaching?
Well, I think one of the things that you did last week when you asked the youth to do the Talib, I think it's more we have to involve them. I think this, and I feel like that's a part of my responsibility to help teach how to teach. That's what needs to be. In other words, they want it, but they need facilitators. I'm going to say what we can do is provide venues, we have to find a way that makes it appealing to their time and their generation. Keeping it halal and giving them, I'm going to say they'll probably need financial support as well as venue. If we can facilitate those kind of things, you'll find one or two who's interested. And the reason why I'm taking that approach is because that's one of the things that that's how we advance in the Nation of Islam. Not all the ideas came from the top down.
Right.
The goal of what we wanted to achieve came from the top. But how to facilitate acquiring it came from the ranks. And what the top did was facilitate what we needed to acquire. And I guess I'm going back to my own example, if I could use it. I told you how Imam, his name was Minister Louis was sent to Baltimore. And he became one of the most progressive ministers in the Nation of Islam because he was able to institute changes, not just in his theology, but in the application. He opened a school, he opened businesses, and we were selling a lot of Muhammad speak. We were producing. When he wanted to do something, I just happened to be one who would say, well, Minister, I think I can help in that with an idea. We saved money on our construction because we did it in-house. We didn't hire outside contractors. And when we did it in-house, the believers could volunteer to help. So we would do a lot of it in-house. All you need is one or two key people who know the principles, and they could tell the believers what to do and when to do it. So I am certain, and this is what I do now. This is my construction technique. I don't go out and hire, if I need a crew for carpentry or a crew for drywall or a crew for electric, I hire one key person who knows. And then I get other people who's got semi skills and put them with the one who knows. And they can produce just as much as a whole crew. So that's what we need to do. I'm going to say we need to extract the principles and then find a way to apply them by providing venue and financial support to the youth. But let them use their creativity as well, right? Because they will come up with it.
MashaAllah. And I say this, brother, I ask these questions because, I live here down in Columbia, Maryland, and visited the different masajid. It's not our tribe primarily. But when I look at the masajid, they have issues, no doubt, with their youth not being there. some, they're losing a lot of their youth, but they're able to maintain or hold on to a group of them. And the group is, they're being innovative, right? They've let them kind of take the reins of the community.
And that's the proper way.
Yes. And then when I look at ours, it's like I see that we struggle with this. And I see that some of our youth actually prefer to go to other masajid as opposed to ours because they feel like it's more organized, more structure, or whatever the case may be.
They have more participation for the youth.
Yes. Yes. So
and so they're going there because they're friends of the youth of those communities.
Right.
And they're invited.
Right.
That was the way we built the Nation of Islam.
Yeah. And we have nothing to invite them to on our end.
Right.
Yeah. MashaAllah. Now that has helped me out personally. I mean, aside from all the other, but I think for me and personally, because this is something that is heavy, I do kind of take as a serious concern. And hopefully there are other people out there who are in my age bracket who also look at it as a serious issue. I think this advice is like golden, brother. MashaAllah.
Well, I'm going to say that this is one of the things that it's hard to tell people, like if you're an entertainer, share the mic.
Right.
Well, in this case, our generation is at the helm. Share the authority.
Yes.
With the youth, because if you expect for them to inherit what you have and use it properly, you got to train them in how to do it. I still say that young man you had that last week on the Talim for fasting, that was excellent.
MashaAllah.
I could see he was being involved and he prepared himself.
MashaAllah.
So if that's the case, he's going to be looking forward to the next time.
Inshallah.
And then he's going to encourage other youth to compete. And I'm going back again. This is one of the things that I use as the captain. I always make it seem like anything that I'm doing was normal. And all of my lieutenants was in competition with me. And they wanted to outdo me. And I told them basically they could. And because they should prepare themselves to be the captain. When I studied the way of the Sahabas, if the standard bearer would fall in battle, there would be another one to take his place.
No.
And if he fell, there would be another one to take his place. So this is the way we're supposed to be thinking. We're supposed to be looking at our downline as our replacements. They're supposed to be qualifying themselves to take our place.
That's right.
I'm going to say Imam Elijah Muhammad did that with Imam W.D. Muhammad. Now, Imam Muhammad said that his following, which he called us his students, are his downline. He said, not my biological family. There's no such thing as royal family. So he said, don't look at me as the son of Imam Elijah Muhammad because of my blood. He said, what I have to offer is in my faith. Right. And I'm giving it to you. He said, Imam Muhammad is the community. He diffused himself into his students, of which I like to say I'm one.
MashaAllah.
Of many.
MashaAllah. No, alhamdulillah, Imam. We appreciate the time. As always, I don't know, we probably went over time this time. I'm not really even sure. But we still got some things to cover. But I do appreciate this. I didn't really intend for us to get off into that part about the advice, but I think it's good that it was said. And hopefully people who watch this, especially people, who are parents, kind of take heed, and then we can get some of these youth involved again, because our communities need to grow as well, right? Our youth, and I say this with kind of like a jaundiced eye, I guess. I don't know, and it's not to be antagonistic against any other community, but I feel that the best place for our children, at least the way things are in American society right now, Muslim children, is to be in our Muslim African American run masajid. Not to be antagonistic against anyone else, but people have their own interest, right? People establish their masajids, and they and there's nothing wrong with that. That's, you go, it's like, hey, that's what you do. I mean, it seems like in a lot of cases, we on our end tend to fail to do that. And that is one of the reasons why our youth hurt, even though we are the group that has held on to Islam longest in this country. Right.
Right.
So that's
well, I'm going to say it's time to revive it. And I'm going to make another suggestion to you. And that is, what we probably should do is create something like a youth night in one, not necessarily doing it, but maybe one weekend out of the month or something, just to get started, to have them to start gathering and let them do their own sessions. I guess, well, are you familiar with Quality Circle? Quality Circle, no. Okay, it's something that we used in the steel mill. They say Japan used it to organize their industrial complex. Okay. And that is, they would involve the people who did the work in the planning and the decision making of which way they wanted to go to improve the company. Gotcha. Yeah. All right, and that's what we should do with the youth. And we could, somebody like one of us could be a facilitator, but more or less what a facilitator in this case means is a catalyst. Right. I mean, don't get involved. Right. But help direct it to develop itself. MashaAllah. MashaAllah. Yeah, that's a good idea. I got it on my checklist, inshallah. Yeah, inshallah. Jazakallah khair. Allah reward you much, brother, for the advice, and even in the history talk. Inshallah, the next session, actually, we'll kind of drive back to the history. But I think this was a good session as well. It's good, and I hope people get benefit from this as well. Inshallah, next session though, we want to kind of talk more so about, I really want to hone in on this mass conversion that took place in 1977. 75. It was 75? Okay, 75. Yes. Okay. Yeah, I want to kind of start off with that. Inshallah. Okay. And so you can, have some words for that, and then we'll branch off into the discussion from there, inshallah. Well, I'll be happy to. I'll be honored to. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. All right, that being said, brother, that's all I have. Not unless you got anything else you want to add. I was just going to say, I told you about my granddaughter coming over. She's graduating from architecture engineering. MashaAllah. And I told you I was in construction. So I bought a piece of land, and I'm subdividing. It has a house on the land, but when I subdivide it, it's going to have an empty lot. So I'm going to give her first project. Allahu Akbar. And I'm saying that to say, this is a way to involve the youth. Right. Yeah. And that's, I think each parent or grandparent should try to find a way to disseminate what they are doing to their downline to help them. In other words, they could very easily be a facilitator in what they already are mastering. And they can take a long arm approach on trying to help them to develop it. And this is how we can keep it. This is something that I do know the Jewish community does a lot of. Yes. We don't, but we need to. Right. And we should not take for granted that we don't have anything to offer. Right. That's another thing. We need to recognize the potential that's in us. And whatever we have in us, we should be looking to take it to the next level through our downline. MashaAllah. MashaAllah. Oh, but I'm guess no, that's good. But that's all that's all I wanted to say. MashaAllah. Good advice, brother. And we will take heed, inshallah. Inshallah ta'ala.
Jazakallah khair again, brother. Inshallah. I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend. Inshallah. I think we may meet up one more time before Ramadan is over, I believe. Inshallah. But may Allah accept from you your fasting and your praying and all your dua. And until we meet again, inshallah.
Yes, sir.
سبحانك
Thank you.
اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك وأتوب إليك. Now, thank you, brother, inshallah. All right. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.